Thank you very much, Haji. The family of Mzee wetu Mwai Kibaki, the third president of the Republic of Kenya, distinguished guests, the panelists, the professors who have talked to us, and all the people who have come here for this memorial lecture and luncheon for the greatest president of our times, the late Mzee Mwai Kibaki. Good afternoon. I'm really very honored that I was invited to come for this lecture, and I want to thank the professors who spoke here to us about the leadership of Mzee Mwai Kibaki. Mzee Mwai Kibaki is a legend. He's a reference point in matters governance. And anybody who talks about governance in this country, there is reference to his leadership. He left a legacy that remains permanent, that is visible, and that is felt. His greatest achievement was the economic restoration and transformation of this country. And because I'm somebody who listens to the ordinary people, they tell me, don't tell us about economic growth, don't tell us about economic survey, don't tell us the economy has improved from this percentage to this percentage. We want to feel the growth the way we felt it when Kibaki was president. Because there was money in circulation, there was infrastructural development that is feasible, and people say they don't want to be told theories. They want to feel economic growth the way they felt it when Mwai Kibaki was president between the year 2002 and 2013. I want to really acknowledge the culture of hard work that the late president inculcated in all of us, asking people to work hard. I remember when he was sworn in as president and he made his first visit to Butere, and those of us from Nyeri were very excited to welcome our son home, and we were lining up everywhere waiting for him. And when he reached Karatina, where I was, he didn't come out of the vehicle. And he lowered the window by a few inches, and then called a PC, akamuuliza bwana PC, nini naendelea hapa? Hii watu yote, it was around 11. Nani nachuna majani chai? Nani yuko kwa shamba ya kahawa? Hapana, tutaharibu. Tukiendelea namna hii tutaharibu. He put the window up and drove to Butere. Nobody ever came again to meet Mwai Kibaki. Watu walienda kwa mashamba. And that is how this country was transformed. The culture of hard work. I want to say that many people today who are solid in this country, I included, we made our money during the time of Mwai Kibaki. Because government documents were respected. If you had an LPO issued to you from government, you could walk into a bank and get 50% as LPO financing. Because you do the work and you would get paid. Today, if you go to an LPO, to a bank, nobody will talk to you. He really dignified government contracts by making sure that contracts were only given when money was available and there was budgetary support. These great men pushed taxation, and we want today, as we remember him in a very fond manner, to say there's nothing wrong with taxation, and Kenyans cannot be accused of refusing to pay taxes, because Mwai Kibaki did it. Lipa kodi, ujitegemee, and people paid taxes And they didn't complain because they saw a corresponding development and services. Kenyans don't have a problem with paying taxes, but Kenyans have a big problem in paying taxes that they cannot see what the money is doing. So we want to ask our brothers now in government to know that Kenyans are not complaining about overtaxation because they don't want to pay tax. They have a problem of paying taxes that are misappropriated, that are not used appropriately. And Mwai Kibaki is a living testimony that Kenyans are willing to pay taxes, but they want to see a corresponding service and development. Mwai Kibaki respected institutions. Ambassador Muthaura is here, and Ambassador, we want to salute you. Mwai Kibaki would not have succeeded without the support of the bureaucracy that you led. But he also allowed you to work, because we know he allowed people to work. Because if you have a supporting system that supports you, it can only be effective to support you if you allow them to work. Mwai Kibaki respected institutions, and going forward, that must be the way for this country, so that institutions can work. Again, we must remember him for the 2010 Constitution, and all those who say that they remember him fondly, the way to dignify his legacy is to implement the Constitution and follow it letter and spirit. Because when we do that, we'll have a good country. Mwai Kibaki spoke very little and did much. Most of us are learning from him. Nowadays, I only talk once a week. I'm becoming a good student of Mwai Kibaki. Going forward, I will talk after 2 weeks, then one a month, because he spoke very little and did a lot. And I think you don't need to speak much. You just work, and work can be seen. And if you remember free primary education, it was real. Today it isn't. And Mwai Kibaki didn't have to talk about it. How kuipigia debe, he did it, and it was there for everybody to see and to feel. Let me, Judy and your siblings, thank you, because many people do not appreciate the place of family in leadership. There's no leader who can succeed if you don't have family support. The fact that Mwai Kibaki was a very successful leader in this country speaks volume of the support that the family gave him. And therefore, as we celebrate him, we want to honor the family for standing behind your father, supporting him at home, and allowing him to dedicate his life to the service of this great republic. Again, we also want to honor the Kibaki family because despite many challenges and temptations, you never allowed yourselves to be misused by entrepreneurs to spoil the name of your father and yourselves. Mwai Kibaki is gone, but his integrity and that of his family remains up. Nobody has ever suited Mwai Kibaki and his family in any scandal in this country. And we know the temptations around family by people who want to use proximity to power. So you have really dignified your father because his name is good, and nobody has ever thrown him into anything that would have looked conflict of interest or commercial interest for his tenure in State House. He did a good job, and we want to really salute the family because that is really the way to go. Dr. Mukisa Kitui, we are envious of the cabinet you served at Mwai Kibaki, that you are allowed to speak. Justin Muturi and I can tell you, in the cabinet we served, it's only me and him who could speak. And that is why we are to be edged out. The rest are flower girls and praise and worship choir. So we would have wanted, if things could reverse and we served at Mwai Kibaki, would have enjoyed, because he would have allowed us to contribute, to make meaningful contribution to the management of the affairs of this country. Haji, I've heard you correctly about the place of DP in Othaya, but I'm more concerned not even about DP in Othaya. I am more concerned about the quality of leadership in that constituency that was led by Mwai Kibaki. A graduate of the London School of Economics, the greatest president of all times, a man who represented Udaya with wisdom, a man who was a good debater. Then, when he was gone, the replacement to Mwai Kibaki, like today, it's a shame. Member of Parliament who never speaks in Parliament at all, who hasn't made any contribution on the floor of the House. And Udaya now is a pale shadow of the Udaya Adam Mwai Kibaki. Coming this general election in 2027, we shall talk to the people of Udaya to dignify the late Mwai Kibaki by looking for a quality legislator who, even if he cannot measure up to the level of Mwai Kibaki, can be there 60–70%. But the present situation in Udaya is embarrassing and is very demeaning to the late Mwai Kibaki and his family. And Udaya people are crying for a change, and we'll be having conversation with them so that they can look for quality leadership that can be able to hold the name of that great old man in high repute. So mimi nimeshukuru sana, tuko hapa na viongozi wengi ambaye sijui Haji unataka tuwapatie, unataka tufanye namna gani? We introduce them? What do you want to introduce them? Yeah, tuko na the Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, kiongozi wetu. Kuja useme jambo. His late brother was vice president to Mwai Kibaki na alikuwa na kizungu mingi sana. Hata huyu wako na kizungu mingi. Sio mingi sana. But he served Mwai Kibaki well. So kuja sema jambo.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Kibaki family, the DP leadership, the distinguished panel, and distinguished guests. Good afternoon. Let me start by thanking the Kibaki family and also the DP leadership for giving us the opportunity to be here today to remember a great leader. And as His Excellency has said, I think he's the most consequential leader of our republic. And as we remember him today, we remember words of a wise man who said that sometimes we are all warmed by fires we did not light, and we drink from wells we did not dig. This great leader, when you look at his symbol, there was something very unique about Kibaki. It was always about light. His symbol ya DP ilikuwa ni taa, mwangaza, lighting the way. When we came to NAC and several of our parties came together, my late brother had fought Kenya, we had others. Forming NAC again, Kibaki chose light, mwenge, yes, the torch, yes, to light the way. And the light that he left us is the Vision 2030. That is still the light guiding the journey that is our national development. We're in 2025. We have 5 years to go to 2030. So as we meet here today as leaders, let us start thinking about another light that from 2027, as we form the next government, we can have a leadership that can light another light beyond 2030, beyond Africa Agenda 2063. And I see that leadership in this room. I see the next government in this room. I thank the organizers for choosing this historic venue. Mwai Kibaki once met here with his friend Wamalwa Kijana and his other friend Charity Ngilu. The late Kihika Kimani asked, ni nini wanaume wawili wanafanya na mwanamke mmoja kwa hoteli? Kumbe Kibaki was forming the next government. Yes. So those of you who are here, Kibaki's friends, let us look at this as a 202 moment. Let us drink from this well of inspiration, and let us be inspired to save our country, because apart from Vision 2030, the greatest legacy he left us was the Constitution. He appointed me as Minister for Justice, and I remember when I invited him to address the judiciary, they were bidding him farewell. I told him, Mr. President, I don't know what historians will write about you. What will be your greatest legacy? they would have a hard time because they would wonder whether free primary education was your greatest legacy. They would wonder whether the phenomenal infrastructure development was your greatest legacy. But I told him, Your Excellency, I think your greatest legacy will be the Constitution 2010. All we need to do as a country is to remain and to protect that Constitution and to implement it fully and faithfully. It's being violated time and again. It was violated last year on the 25th of June when young people, the Gen Z, were slaughtered, demanding for accountability, good governance, and an end to corruption. Yesterday I was in Nakuru as a lawyer acting for Butere girls. We are not talking about the Gen Z. This is the Gen Alpha. Kids, children, being tear gassed, being injured, being denied one of the most fundamental freedoms in that Constitution, freedom of expression. A child should be allowed to express themselves freely, not as a favor from the state, but it is a constitutional protection of our children, nationally and internationally. So as we remember Mwai Kibaki, let us remember to remain and to uphold fidelity to our Constitution and to get in place the right leadership in 2027. Thank you and God bless you.
I think Ambassador Muthaura, please come and say something. We look upon you in public service. You are such a mentor.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. I really wish to congratulate very much all those who have organized this event. Sometimes in Kenya, we forget our leaders. And what we are doing now is to make sure that we don't forget our leaders. Through appreciation, we become visionary so that we are able to do more and value our contributions to the country. I want to say that the professors who spoke to us about Kibaki, I think they spoke very well, but I think they forgot a few things which would have even made their presentations very strong. And this is education. I think Kibaki made a great impact in this country on education, not just primary. You know, because the party came with the free primary. But soon after that, Kibaki introduced free day secondary so that to expand, the middle, the middle education. So that really expanded education in this country. It did not stop there. He also introduced Tibet technical education so that every county, and to have a technical institute to empower people. More than that, he expanded the university education from 6 public universities to 22. And soon after, the number went even up to, I think, 33, 34. So for me, the impact that Kibaki has had on education is really what is transforming this country. There's no doubt. Sometimes we get a bit worried about the youth in the country, but the youth has been empowered. So we have a responsibility as leaders to make sure that we act ahead of the youth by expanding the economy. I'll tell you how, when Mungiki became a nuisance, when the Ministry of Youth was created, was in response to the Mungiki menace And we realized, Kibaki realized, that a lot of these people, youth, are idle. What do we do to make sure that they have opportunities for employment? So what we did was, to take care of the youth was to expand the education, of course, so that they stay in school longer and they are more technically empowered to do that. Then on top of that, he really identified the sectors that needed to be expanded so that they can create more jobs. At that time, Nairobi, there were no high-rise buildings. In fact, we used to have Nyayo high-rise somewhere near down Nairobi Dam, Nyayo high-rise as more estate. There was Kariako, which was done very early, and there's more high-rise also estate in Outer Ring. We didn't have high-rise apartments. So Kibaki opened up Nairobi for high-rise buildings and multi-purpose, multiple use of buildings, not just residential. You can imagine Harper Hill, were just bungalows. How many people are in Harper Hill in bungalows in 1 week each? How many people? Places like Kilimani, places like all these areas around Nairobi, even Parklands, Westlands, Lavington, they were just bungalows with very few people. People having just 1 acre in one house, a family of 2 or 3. So you opened up, and look at Nairobi today. I mean, all these high-rise have created those jobs, a lot of jobs. So really, what I'm saying here is that Kibaki really valued think tanks very much. That's why the Economic and Social Council could come up with various options. And once he's convinced about the best option available, he would just give us, targets. There's no two-way. You are given targets. You have to deliver. And you just say, don't talk too much. People will appreciate what they can see. Do it. Once people see it, you remember the roads, the development of the roads in the country, infrastructure, the ICT. I remember Kenya was when Kibaki took over, Kenya was very slow on adopting the new ICT transformations which were taking place globally. So he said, now, who are we going to give this ministry? We need to have somebody who can understand it. Unfortunately, those days, appointments were only restricted to members of parliament. So we got one of the members of parliament, Kagwe, who had been in information, who had been, a director in the Ministry of Information. He could understand more about information technology. Then he asked now, and the permanent secretary, where do we get one who can understand this ICT? Morage said, he knows of somebody, a Kisi, demo, in the university, who was in America, and he is very good in that area. So the two people are appointed. And the first thing they did was to review where we were. And then they realized there was a regional program to bring marine fiber cable to East Africa. because we did not have. That's why we are lagging behind. We're just using the satellite. So the first thing, they went to South Africa, where there was a regional meeting just to push that agenda. When they went there, they found people are just talking at cross purpose, as the program was too slow. They came and said, told the president, Your Excellency, this project, this fiber cable, unless we have it, marine fiber cable, we shall not take off. And if we wait for the regional project, we may wait for another 10 years. Why can't we do it ourselves? Kibaki asked them, and what is the cost implication? What is the cost? He told them it's about $130 million, and he consulted with some companies. About $130 million, they would land the marine fiber cable in Mombasa. Then the president said, yeah, we don't have that $130 million, but we can find it. I'm sure we should be able to find that money in our budget. Go ahead. It's as simple as that. You convince him, he tells you, go ahead, we shall find the money in our budget. Now, I don't have to elaborate where Kenya is now on ICT. It was so bright and so forward-looking that any idea that could make a difference, he embraced it and then moved very fast. The highways, the Thika Road, the parliament was complaining, members of parliament were complaining, the road was in very bad condition. It needed to be recarpeted. Recarpeted, refurbished. It was just 4 lanes from Nairobi to Thika. So we sent Kamau, who was the roads engineer, to African Development Bank. He went there. And the African Development Bank asked for statistics, what have you. I told him now, this road with only 4 lanes cannot serve this traffic, which is one of the heaviest in Africa. You need to think of a minimum of 6 lanes, 6 to 8 lanes, for it to make sense. So they came and they briefed the president. President told them, I think those people are making a lot of sense. Let's do it. We shall try to improvise money and do it. At that time, that $1 billion was like a lot of money. But once that road was done, in fact, it was done in a period of about 2 to 3 years, perfectly. That gave Kenya ambition about highways. And now, I don't have to say about what happened in Nairobi. I don't have to tell you what happened in the rest of the country, because we developed a lot of highways throughout the Kenya. And Kenya now is one of the best served countries in Africa in highways. So I thought I needed to say that, to know that, leadership is not just, it requires a lot of thinking also. Thinking, deep thinking, and that's what we had. The president did not have a lot of time for a lot of talking. He wanted to entertain a lot of ideas and discussions. And once he is convinced, then money was not a problem. The other thing which I think may not have been very clear here is that he set limits at how much money you can use administratively. He wanted a minimum of 30% to be used for development, for investment. So whenever you are presenting a budget, your budget should be like a maximum of 70% administrative and 30% investment for development. And really that made us have a balance between the development and the consumption. And that was because we are being led by an economist called Kibaki. We want to balance the investment and the consumption. And that went on very well. The other thing is, as an economist, he did not want to add more taxes. I remember he asked us to review more taxes. When we reviewed, he said there's nothing wrong with these taxes. We don't have to add more. All that we have to do is to make tax collection more efficient and also make people own, tax, call it responsibility. The Kenyan people have to own tax responsibility. And to my surprise, within the first 1 year, we moved the revenue from about 400, total revenue was about 400, I think 40, something like that, to 600, I think about 60 or 50. So the jump was a lot. We did not add any taxes. And then by the third year, we are around $1 billion. Trillion. So, in other words, their taxation is not just more and more taxes. It's actually the efficiency and the public ownership of the taxes. So I really want to say that those are a few things, but I can talk and talk and talk because I learned a lot from our Excellency the President. He was a source of wisdom. If I tell you the way he handled the post-election violence, because that was like violence imposed on him. The way he handled it was unique in Africa because he did not want that violence to continue. He wanted it concluded as quickly as possible. And that's why he agreed very fast to have a Grand Coalition. When a Grand Coalition was formed, he treated all ministers equally. Not to say this is this minister, this is ministers who are his huntsmen, and they are to deliver in their sector. I remember also, with the experience that we had a post-election violence at that time, we realized the violence actually should have been controlled, but we didn't have enough policemen. We had very few policemen in the country. We looked even at the military. We had very few people. The military. Our military were very, numbers. We just give orders so that we don't go through those type of experiences again. Double the number of police and the number of military so that the country has stability. And those type of decisions are not just made by anybody. They are made by people who are seeing far. And really, to me, I think people are writing a book, but at that time I was writing mine. I don't know whether we published that book of Kibaki. I think it was published, but more needs to be done to be written about Kibaki. Thank you very much.
Attorney General Emeritus Justin Butere. Please, don't be as brief as the ambassador. Don't be as brief as the ambassador.
Exactly.
He was too brief.
Thank you to the family of His Excellency President Mwai Kibaki, the organizing committee, the panelists, and all of us that have attended this second lecture. Good afternoon. I'll try to copy Ambassador Mudaura. But let me say this, and indeed I intend to be extremely brief, because many people may not think, when I speak in the presence of Norman Nyaga, my good friend Mzee Joe Consolo Munyao, when I claim to be old, they always laugh at me. They think I'm a small boy. Now that I'm also claiming to be old, in that for the longest time, even when I was a young man, Norman, even as a student in high school, there's only one person in the Kenyan political leadership that I always loved to one day meet. It was President Mwai Kibaki. But because we have been told quite some exciting stuff by the panelists, Mzee Munyao, and now Ambassador Mudaura, I want to just pick one point, not about his eloquence and his capacity to debate any topic in Parliament, which I found quite unique, but it's something that I think, for me, I emulate from President Mwai Kibaki. We've talked about the many gifts that he has left this country. Talked about Vision 2030. And my worry is just that as it comes to an end, we may get into some darkness. His Excellency Rigathi has always been telling people that whenever it gets very dark, it's just about dawn. You're just about to get to some light. But I fear for the country if it gets too dark. This document that at every time, and it's a dictates to, before you take up any state job, you must swear by the Constitution to defend it, to uphold it, to protect it. As my brother Eugene pointed out, dedicated the whole chapter 6. But know what? Actually, you don't need to read chapter 6. You just need to follow the public life of the longest serving member of parliament so far in this country, Mwai Kibaki. Chapter 6 is on leadership and integrity. How it is that somebody could have been in public life, in politics, that long, and to date, you don't hear anybody saying, oh, they planned this, they planned Thika Highway, but in the process of planning Thika Highway, there was this which was supposed to sort out some things. This, for me, is extremely important. Even as we read that chapter 6 on leadership and integrity. We've been told about ICT. How I wish we all in leadership could borrow a leaf that when we come up with projects, public projects. We don't do so because we have hidden private interests in there. Because virtually everything we do these days, as you go through the documents, you come to realize, oh, there's something here which is not very clear. How is it that President Mwai Kibaki went through it, Minister for Finance, Minister for Health, Assistant Minister, but you can't hear. And in those very critical dockets, to date, you cannot see or hear what we hear today. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, whether you read chapter 6, read about President Mwai Kibaki to know what it is. When we talk about good governance, when we talk about integrity in public leadership, in office, you just need to read the history of Mwai Kibaki. Then you can read chapter 6 as kind of a lullaby, because when you read the history of Mwai Kibaki, then integrity in public leadership, in public office, will become so clear to you that you don't need to read anything else. Many of you, I'm sure, are religious people, either Muslims or Christians or Hindus. You know, virtues, the virtues of integrity, honesty. I think there's a lot that we can learn just by reading the life of President Mwai Kibaki, because it amazes me how somebody could have been in leadership, rising to the highest office, and you still cannot hear anything, not touching even on his family, not touching not even his close friends. It speaks volumes. That is the legacy of Mwai Kibaki that I live with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Tumeshukuru sana. Ambassador Mudhaura talked about housing that Mwai Kibaki did, and it triggered my mind when William Ruto brought the affordable housing and there was outcry out there. People are saying they be left alone to do their own houses. And I had a conversation with him, and he says, no, we need houses. And I told him, Mwai Kibaki did a lot of housing, but not the actual construction. The government did not have a housing program. All Mwai Kibaki did was to open up the bypasses, provide infrastructure in terms of sewage, electricity, and water. And the private sector, on its own, build houses all over Nairobi. And they are there for everybody to see. There is no need for government to compete with the private sector to put up houses. The work of government is not to do houses, it's to provide services. And of course, he said, I'm not Mwai Kibaki, I will do things differently. So one of the things we intend to do, those of us who are like-minded who want to have a regime change in 2027, is to scrap the housing levy and reinstate the housing initiative to the private sector by government just providing services. Just do roads, water, open up, and things will just come up on their own. Again, I must say, I went to see Mwai Kibaki in 1988. I was a student leader at the University of Nairobi. I was the chairman of the Nyeri University Student Association. And through my then member of parliament, the late Matuamai, I sought an appointment to see the vice president, and I went to his office in Jogo House. And We had a lot of discussion, and he wanted to know what are my ambitions, and I told him I'm interested in business. I had thought he would give me some money to start the business. Not Mwai Kibaki. He went on his shelf behind him, there were many books. And he looked through, produced one book and gave it to me. That book, the author is called Jonathan Black. It's called The Oil. He said, if you want to do business, go and read this book, you'll be a good businessman. That is his mentorship, and today I'm a good businessman, instead of tokenism. Judy, please work quickly to finish the mausoleum in Othaya, because much as we are having this ceremony here, the villagers back home would like to celebrate Mzee, and they would like to come and remember him. And since we cannot bring them here to Nairobi to listen to Professor Kagwanja and foreign policy, they would just like to come to Othaya just to remember the old man for what he did for the people of Othaya, for what he did for the people of this country. Professor Kagwanja, thank you. On the foreign policy, you have told us Mwai Kibaki, his foreign policy was based on the best interest for this country. The other day I talked about our foreign policy in Sudan that is driven by commercial interest. And I saw one of the Root of Flower girls yesterday trying to lecture me that I shouldn't talk about it because I sold to some constitution. The constitution that I and Muturi sold to is to do the right thing and to keep the law. It's not to enable other countries to buy arms to kill children. And Eugene Wamalwa, you know, we are looking at what is happening about Butere girls. We are unable to understand what is this viciousness against children by the present government. Even the colonial government that was very brutal, it never went for the children. Muzungu, they were very brutal, but they spared the children. So we have seen a situation where an administration has panicked because this one term is becoming real. So they have gone berserk. They have gone berserk, and they are now fighting shadows, including schoolgirls. From 2 girls, from 3 girls. These are harmless girls. How fluid is your government if girls can bring it down? Girls. Surely. You know, so when you look at the situation in the Sudan, we are allowing gold to be processed in Kenya and guns to be smuggled through Nairobi to go and kill children in the Sudan. So we are asking, what is this bile against young children? We saw the killing of the Gen Zs, the abductions of young children. What is this bile against innocent young children? So as we move on, let's pray for the country. And Ambassador, again, to shukuru wewe. Now I'm looking at General Gichangi here, and I want to say, if General Gichangi was the director of NIS, that play would not have been banned in Nakuru if it had to be banned. Because it came all the way from the sub-county, nobody noticed. It went to the county, nobody noticed. It went to the region and it became number 3, nobody noticed. They only noticed about it in Nakuru, in the finals, because of a failed intelligence system. You know, that will not happen. So if a decision needed to be made that is a bad play, and people should not see it, ingesimamishiwa huko mbali, because the officers on the ground every day, lakini watu wote wamelala, kila mtu anatafuta pesa. Hii serikali ni ya biashara. Watu ya intelligence wanatafuta biashara, watu ya polisi wanatafuta biashara, rais mwenyewe anatafuta biashara. Sasa, you know, these are things that would make Mwai Kibaki turn in his grave. You know, tuko na shida kubwa, lakini Mungu anatusaidia. So Jacob Haji, we are forming a political party in May. Tutatangaza. We look for a way to work with the Democratic Party we would like to be associated with Mwai Kibaki and what he achieved. Wacha ni introduce huyu Ketu Waruguru, simama, pigia makofi, huyu mrembo ya Laikipia. Then we have our daughter, she's called Gatha in Kikuyu land, the Honorable Gathoni wa Muchomba. Tuko na Masi Kakuya, alikuwa mjumbe hapo Kasarani. She has been associated with this party for a long time. Of course, tuko na Norman Nyaga na wengine, na tumeshukuru sana, and the organizers of this function, we are honored. Tuko na Jane Kihara, the great lady of Naivasha. Alichaguliwa as an MP kwa hii chama ya Democratic Party. She's a third member, ako kwa tamu ya 3. Na nikali anaangushaga wanaume 7 kila uchaguzi. Wote wanaweka chini. These strong women, they are strong people. So tumeshukuru sana, and thank you very much, and asanteni sana Ambassador Muthaura and your team.
Tendo la Butere Girls kusitishwa kuperforma katika ukumbi wao pale hivi ni jambo ambalo limewakela wanasiasa wengi na haswa pia wananchi, manake inasemekana ilikuwa haki yao na ni jambo limekuwa likifanyika. So wanasiasa wakauliza swali nzuri, mpaka watoto ni wakuvamiwa pamoja na tear gas kama watu wazima? Yani swali ambalo wengi wanajiuliza. Rigathi Gachagua akangojewa katika speech yake ambapo pia amesitisha kile kitendo na kugadhabika kwa lile jambo ambalo limefanyika kwa watoto wa Butere Girls. Cleopas Malala akiwa leader wao bado hajafurahia.